Spirit Broadcasting Network TV. I'm your host, Pastor Edna Fernandez. Welcome to the show for such a time as this, founded on Esther 4:14. And I will read Esther 4:14. For if you remain completely silent at this time, relief and deliverance will rise for the Jews from another place, but you and your father's house will perish. Yet who knows whether you have come into the kingdom for such a time as this. So the show is founded on Esther 4:14. We are speaking on Purim, which is, it's not a biblical feast. It is more of a celebration, just like Hanukkah is a celebration. It's not a required feast of the Lord in Leviticus when he speaks on the feasts of the Lord, which are 7 feasts, biblical feasts. It's more of a celebration of victory. It's a celebration where Esther and Mordecai, who were Benjamites, in the time of King Ahasuerus, he had dethroned Vashti, and he was looking for a replacement, which he called all the virgins in. And this is, I'm sorry, I forgot to announce that this is part 4 of Purim 5784. So I hope you watch the other one so that you get an understanding more or less, or you can read after the book of Esther and read on Purim. So I will be getting into the message. Purim is not a commanded feast, but one to be remembered. And that these days should be remembered and kept throughout every generation, every family, every province, and every city. And that these days of Purim should not fail from among the Jews, nor the memorial of them perish for their seed. Esther 9:28. The book of Esther was God, Yahweh's hand of providence at work. This is a book where God is not mentioned anywhere in the book of Esther. His name is not mentioned once. In Esther 9:20 and 22, Mordecai wrote these matters down and sent letters to all the Jews who were throughout all the provinces and kings Ahasuerus, both near and far, to have them observe the 14th and the 15th days of the month of Adar each year as a time when the Jews gave themselves rest from their enemies. The month when their trouble was turned into happiness and their mourning to a holiday. These were to be the days of banqueting, happiness, sending gifts to one another, and providing for the poor. Purim is a happy festival. The story is found in the book of Esther, Hadassah, and commemorates the salvation of the Jews, of the Jewish people in ancient Persia and Iran. Purim celebrates God's intimate involvement in every aspect of his people. Even though there were no overt miracles recorded in the Megillah, the story of Esther, that's in the Esther scroll, he was actively working in the events to care for his nation. The book of Esther reads like a melodrama. A drunken king, Ahasuerus, brings about his beautiful queen Vashti. He commands her to appear before him, but she refuses. King Ahasuerus, men go house to house looking for new, more beautiful queens. They find a beautiful Jewish orphan, Hadassah, Esther. Esther's uncle Mordecai heard 2 men outside the palace plotting to kill the king. He reported this to Esther, and the king's life was spared. King Ahasuerus appointed Haman as his new prime minister. The king's subjects were ordered to bow to Haman, but Mordecai refused. Haman built gallows to have Mordecai hung. Haman convinced the king to give a decree to kill all the Jews. Uncle Mordecai went to Esther and told her she must go to the king and ask that the Jews be saved. In the end, it was Haman hung in his own gallows. Mordecai and Esther were honored, and the Jews were saved. Yah be praised. Praise be to God. In John 5:1, Jesus, Yeshua, is in Jerusalem for an unnamed feast. Scholars have debated whether the feast was Passover, Purim, Sukkot, or even Pentecost. Some have objected to Purim because it is not one of the major pilgrimage festivals in Deuteronomy 16:16. Chronologically, the only feast which makes sense is Purim. Purim in AD 28. The feast John mentions on the Sabbath, John 5:9, the only feast day to fall on the Sabbath between AD 25 and AD 35 was Purim of AD 28. And so just like the name of the show, you have been prepared for such a time as this, Esther 4:14. Ever since that year of AD 25 and 27, nothing's changed. History has repeated itself over and over and over every year since, and victory has came to the Jews, to us, where it not only repeats itself, it's a celebration every year that we're to celebrate, which is the victory, which is God was behind the scenes. He was moving, where Esther was just obedient to her calling, and she prepared herself for such a time as this. And so in giving this study, which was a 4-parter, which is going to go into a 5-part, we are to celebrate that victory because divine reversals are taking place in this time, in this season, in this dispensation, in the era that we're in these end times, in God raising an army, raising a remnant. He is still bringing victory. He is still bringing divine turnarounds. He's still reversing the curse. He is still moving mightily. Now, the key point is that Esther was silent. She was in preparation. She was, reading the scrolls. She was eating and basking in the presence of the Lord. She was doing this quietly, secretly. She didn't blow her covers of who she was in the kingdom, which God had already preordained her before the foundations of the earth, before she was in her mother's belly. Just like us, you are called, just like I am called, for such a time as this. And God wants to catapult you into your destiny, into your God-given assignment, into your God-given mandate, just like Esther. And just like me and you for such a time as this. So I'm going to go to a little bit of her strengths and accomplishments. Achieving great power. She ended up being the queen of Persia, which was a province of 127 provinces. Okay, the desire to control others and receive honor. Oh, I'm sorry. Now I'm going to speak. I'm sorry. I got a little confused here. So now I'm going to speak a little bit about Haman, which he was he was very arrogant. He was in second command. And he was of power and influence, an extremely arrogant leader. He recognized the king as his superior, but could not accept anyone as an equal. When one man, Mordecai, refused to bow in submission to him, Haman wanted to destroy him. He became consumed with hatred for Mordecai. He was already filled with racial hatred for all the Jews, because of the long-standing hatred between the Jews and Haman's ancestors, the Amalekites. So the Amalekites were their enemies of the Benjamites. Their main fight was against the Amalekites. In the Hebraic, Amalek means doubt and unbelief. So just like in the book of Esther, many of us fight the spirit of Amalek, where it says that you will fight Amalek from generation to generation. So we're fighting the same enemy, Amalek, doubt and unbelief. And so the Amalekites, let me go back again. Okay, he was already filled with the racial hatred of the Jewish people because of the long-standing hatred between the refusal to give homage to any human person challenging Haman's self-centered religion. God was preparing Haman's downfall and the protection of his people long before in exposing an assassination plot indebted to the king to him. Not only was Haman prevented from killing Mordecai, he also had to suffer the humiliation of public honoring him within hours. Haman died on the gallows he had built to hang Mordecai, and his plan to wipe out the Jews was thwarted. In contrast to Esther, who risked everything for God and won, Haman risked everything for an evil purpose and lost. But the Bible leads us to ask deeper questions. How much of Haman is in me? Do I desire to control others? Am I threatened when others don't appreciate me as I think they should? Do I want revenge with my pride? Do I want revenge when my pride is attacked? Confess these attitudes to God and ask Him to replace them with an attitude of forgiveness. Otherwise, God's justice will settle the matter. So Haman wanted to achieve great power. He was second in command, the Persian king to King Ahasuerus. His weakness and mistakes, the desire to control others and receive honor, was his highest goal. Was blinded by arrogance and self-importance, planned to murder Mordecai and build the gallows for him, orchestrated to plan to slaughter God's people throughout the empire. The lessons in his life were hatred will be punished. God has an amazing record for making evil plots backfire on the planner. Pride and self-importance will be punished. An insatiable thirst for power and prestige is self-destruction. Okay, and not only was it in Persia, it was in Susa. So in Esther, I'm in Esther 3, 5, and 6. When Haman saw that Mordecai would not kneel or pay him honor, he was enraged. Yet having learned who Mordecai's people were, he scorned the idea of killing only Mordecai. Instead, Haman looked for a way to destroy all Mordecai's people, the Jewish people throughout the whole kingdom of Xerxes. Esther 3, 5, and 6. Haman's story is told in the book of Esther. So that was the evil plot that Haman had towards Mordecai for not bowing down to him. And he wasn't going to bow. He was a Jew. He was a Torah keeper, a Sabbath keeper. He wore tzitzits. They prayed, they fasted, they interceded, but they were gatekeepers. They were watchmen. And he was from the tribe of Benjamin, which they were very skilled warriors, where they fought with both hands. They just didn't give right hooks, they also gave left ones. The Benjamites were left-handed. And so they were known to win many battles because they were skilled for that. And because they could use both hands, their left and their right. And so Esther and Mordecai were Benjamites, and they were prepared. They were prepared for this battle in the book of Esther. They were prepared to fight and to lay their lives down for the Jews, for their people. And God was moving behind the scenes. He flipped the script, he reversed the curse, and he brought divine reversals. And so just like in your life and my life, God is still doing the same thing. Okay, maybe he's not doing it in a tangible way. He's doing it behind the scenes, just like in the book of Esther. He's working in us and through us and moving in us and through us, just like in Esther, just like in Mordecai. The Holy Spirit is moving where it seems like he's not doing anything, but he's actually moving behind the scenes. So I just want to encourage you that just like in Purim in 25 AD, he is still moving in this time, in this season, in this dispensation, in this era, in this momentum that we're in. And he wants to bring victory in your life. You just keep preparing yourself. You keep reading, you keep fasting, you keep interceding, you keep being that watchman on the wall. And I declare and decree to you today that God is going to bring divine reversals. He is going to bring breakthrough. He is faithful. He will do what he says that he will do. So be encouraged. I hope and pray that you watch part 5 as we celebrate the victory of Purim 5784, which is also the open door. So there's an open door, there's an open portal. Just trust and believe. Thank you for